talk to me. So explain the difference between the standard and the guide. Okay. So I want to make sure that I fully understand it so that our listeners fully understand it because you have two different things. So can you highlight that a little bit more for me?
That is a tough question because there's actually a fine line between a standard and a guide. And we generally refer to a guide as suggestions or recommendations, whereas we view a guide as a standard as requirements.
Mhm.
However, we have a ergonomics guide, and the industry uses that really as a standard. So we have it's called the BIFMA G1 2013 ergonomics guide, but it's treated like a standard.
Okay. So that
Where in
makes
fact,
sense.
we're in fact going to make it a standard. It's in the process right now. So, but to answer your question, guide is generally recommendations. The standard would be requirements.
Okay.
Should
So
versus shall.
okay, should versus I was actually about to say that, right? So the
Yep,
standard is you shall do this and the product shall do this.
Mhm.
And this the guide is, hey, you should do this. We recommend that you do this. Basically talking about the ergonomic guide, that it's a guide that talks about ergonomics in the work environment and how you should sit and all those kinds of various different things. But now, because it's been used so much as a standard, you're actually turning it into a standard.
correct. We and the newest guide is pods. These are like the phone booths.
Yep.
So we just came out with that last September, I believe, and it's called a Pods Guide.
Mhm.
But that may become a standard in the future.
Sure. So what I love about what you said is I love the distinction between should and shall. I think that's really understandable for a lot of people. But I also like how you explained, what it is you're really trying to do. And it's really not just benefit the manufacturers, you're trying to benefit our end customers as well,
Oh, absolutely.
that
Yep.
quality products are delivered in the market.
Yes.
Now, go ahead, Jennifer.
I was just going to say there, another element, because I could imagine your listeners might say, well, why isn't everything then a standard?
Hmm.
Why would you have guides at all? And the quick answer to that is one sort of timing and responsiveness to the market need. So Dave just mentioned our newest guide is around pods. Well, that's a relatively new product category for our market.
Mhm.
And creating an ANSI BIFMA standard is no small thing.
Sure.
It takes a long time. There's the whole process that Dave was sort of alluding to under the ANSI process that we follow. And so sometimes, you want to be able to respond more quickly. And so a guideline, we have a little bit more latitude to get some great guidance out there for people to follow. And then it gives us a chance to sort of iterate, maybe fast fail, improve
Mhm.
on those guidelines that ultimately, if pods stay around, and there will be a time in which the market might say, hey, let's go ahead and elevate this to an ANSI BIFMA standard. So that's part of the other reason why you would have both.
Yeah, that's great. Actually, and I think the pod example is a great example. I mean, that product's only been in the U.S. market for 5 years or so, and it's like taken off like crazy. And there have been a lot of people asking questions about, well, is there a bit of a standard for it? And there really
Mm-hmm.
hasn't been. So I love the fact you start with the guide. You're getting a consensus from the community, both the government, users, manufacturers, to come up with the guide, and then you watch how that works and then you develop it as appropriate into a standard, which then sets the standard for how the product should be manufactured, the testing guidelines, and things like that.